أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد النبي الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. My dear brothers and sisters, it's very important that we learn about our deen and see the beauty of it. Even in some chapters, it might not concern you or obligatory for you to know that knowledge, but knowing that knowledge that by itself is rewardable. Second, that will strengthen you and strengthen your relation with the Sharia, and you see the beauty of it. This is zakah. It is a pillar of Islam, but might not necessarily that you have to pay, zakah, because some people they are not in that category to pay zakah. But knowing the rules of zakah, that by itself it will strengthen your iman. Knowing those rules and learn that knowledge, it might be beneficial for others as well. And looking at that from that aspect, it's really one of the greatest system, regardless that it comes even as what your obligations. A very great system for humanity, and that system being tested out for many centuries. That's bringing goodness to the society. And that's something beautiful from that aspect by itself, let alone that it is your obligation. At the time of Sayyidina Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, they were looking for people who would receive the zakah. They couldn't find. And when they came to him, he said, okay, look for maybe those are blind, those are disabled, and hire people to serve them from the money of zakah. They said, we did. He said, look for any young boy who want to get married and he cannot afford, and help them for marriage. And they did. And whatever he would suggest, they said, we did. And the money is still sitting there. That's from Maytul Mal and from the zakat, the 2.5%. They solve the problems of the society. Can you imagine? So imagine if the ummah, you care about this, that actually will be a great source and a great help for all aspects. You didn't need to exaggerate in asking for 30% of the income or 40% of the income. No. If you manage it as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribed, that will bring goodness for the ummah. And by the way, the tax system and zakah system are different. They're not the same. The tax applied on the income, while zakah is on your saving, despite of your income. Some people they have a million income, but maybe there's no zakah. Yes, and maybe somebody he's not working, but he has in his bank account 20,000, and he still have to pay zakah. So the zakah, it's applied on the saving, on the liquid money, and that can be invested. Even it was not invested. So if the money, the sources that can be, anything can be liquid, then there is a zakah for it. Okay, so it's different from the tax system. And some people, they might actually think, oh, you know what, I pay my tax, I don't have to pay my zakah. No, do not mix with all of that. Yeah, unfortunately, you have to pay your tax legally, but has nothing to do with your zakah. You still be required to pay your zakah if all conditions are met. And unfortunately, you find some Muslims are committed for their salah, for the halal and haram when they come to the eating, but they're not caring much about their zakah. And they think they are living in halal. No. That money you earn, yes, you earn. And Allah enabled you to earn that money. However, there is a certain portion of that money that's not yours. And the moment you kept it with you, you are making transgression. And that's not halal money there, and that will ruin the rest of the money. So that should not be, uh, with you. And actually, uh, Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq fought those they prevent giving the zakah that you used to give it to the Prophet ﷺ. This is why I'm not going to give it anymore. And some of them, when they said hudud ridda or harb ridda, not because of they are out of Islam, but some of them, they not giving the zakah, they refused to give their zakah. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr said, لو منعوني عقالا كان يدرم صلما قاتلتم عليه. If they prevent that, just something a little that they used to give and they have to give, I will enforce them to do so. So it's a ibadah. It has to be fulfilled. And inshallah, the ummah will be getting awareness about it, and they will fulfill it. And the moment you fulfill that one, you will see how the ummah flourish. And there are many aspects it can be done by that zakah. There are 4 things that you have to know that will solve many problems about the zakah. That's 4 conditions. More often they talk about 2, but I will talk about those 4 because they're really important. The first one, بلوغ النصاب. بلوغ النصاب, which بلوغ النصاب. Okay. The minimum threshold of net worth, which that Islamically is equivalent to 84, some they estimate 85 grams of pure gold. So if you own that amount, which is equivalent to 84 grams of gold, which nowadays can be calculated as 11,500. Some they calculate 11,000. It's up and down. Always take the minimum amount to be in a safe side and to benefit the one who is poor. Because when you go to the high bracket, you might be exempted from paying zakah, but that's not the safe side. The safe side to take the minimum calculation of that. So that's an nisab. If somebody has not owned that, then he's not obligatory to pay the zakah. Yeah, we'll come to that. Okay. So if you have that as a saving for 1 year, 1 lunar year, that's the second condition. So بلوغ النصاب وحلول الحول. So the first condition, you have to own that minimum amount of money or anything that can be liquid equivalent to 84 grams of gold. Some people, they calculated with silver, which 300 grams of that, which can be calculated as 700 or so. And they said we want to be in the safe side, But you have to think of that. People, either they will give zakah or receive zakah, or those they are not, they are fine. But those they will give zakah, require zakah, that's an extra amount that's out of their needs. When a 700, even a poor person can have that for a year, yes? Every time is 700. But it doesn't mean that he's financially stable. You get my point? So calculating it with the silver, it might be actually, yes, a safe side, because you know what? A person will give the zakah no matter, because 700 is a simple amount. You can afford it. You can have it for the saving even for a year. But the point of the zakah, that the one he will give, that he's actually financially stable or have some sort of extra wealth that can be there for his needs. And also, the currency today, despite what Abraham Nixon did, yes, in the in 70s, where it was in 70s, yeah, where he's not linking the dollar with the currency with the gold, but that's not like the norm. Wherever, like everywhere you go, other currencies is still linked with gold, correct? And the reference of that is a gold. So having it, they consider the nisab with a gold, that's more fit with the reality and more fit with the logic behind the idea of paying zakah. So if you had that nisab, that amount, and you hold it for a year. What I mean you hold it for a year, so that's your saving. We're not talking about the income. Let's say I hold it for 11 months. But then I have to use to buy equipment, to buy something that for my need. I'm not doing it to run or escape from zakah. I'm doing it with the goodwill. Because if I'm doing it to escape from zakah, I still have to pay zakah. يعاقب المرء بنقيض مقصوده. So if I'm doing it for wrong reason, that's a different story. But if somebody is doing it for a good reason, then he will start over again. So it has to have it for a year. That's amount. When I said a year, I said lunar calendar year. From Ramadan to Ramadan, Shawwal to Shawwal. And this actually should be even certain day. The beginning of Ramadan to the beginning of Ramadan, the end of Ramadan to the end of Ramadan. Why we are not calculating it with the other year? It might be easier, yes, because of the bookkeeping and the analog, and for all other counting, we go by the taxable year, yes, which the solar system, the normal months, January, February, and all of that. Why are we not going with this? Because you are going with that, you are going to miss a year for every 30 years. Miss a year of paying zakah for every 30 years. Because there's 11 days in difference. You still can calculate it with that way, but the formula will be different. So you're not going to do 2.5%. You're going to do 2.85%. So it will be different. So the amount will be different, not the same. If you are saying, what, it's not that easy because of the company book, it's going with the other way. I want to go with the different system, not the Lawrence system. There's a way to do that. There's a way to do that. And that's it should be. Somebody would say, you know what? I want to pay zakah before it's due. Is that fine? ما قارب الشيء أعطي حكمه. It's now, like you say, I'm just 11 months and I want to pay my zakah now. Can you do that? You can do that. That's fine. Somebody would say, you know what? Can I pay the zakah for the next year now? Because if there is urgent need, yes, you can. The Prophet gave permission to Al-Abbas to give the zakah of 2 years in 1 year. So you can do in advance. However, when the actual year is there, you calculate and you see if you are given extra, it's fine. If you're given shortest, then you pay that differences. Somebody will say, can I change my year calendar? Like my due date, can I change it? My due date in Shawwal, I bring it to Ramadan, my due date. for paying zakah in Rabi' al-Awwal, I want to bring it to Ramadan because of the virtue of Ramadan. There is a formula to make that. There's a way to calculate it. But I didn't prefer that. And every time there are people in need. There are people they need help in Shawwal. Some people they need help in Ramadan. Keep it as it is. Then always there is a cash, there is a money, there is sadaqah, there is somebody receiving something different months. Why all of us we give in Ramadan, and then other months the person that in need he couldn't find somebody to help. Somebody will say, you know what? And instead of the end of the year, what's hawl? Yes, the second condition. So what's the first condition? Bulugh al-nisabi. Second, hulul al-hawli. So he said, instead of hulul al-hawl, I'll wait for the end of the year. I know from my experience I have to pay zakah because this is my income, this is my saving, and always my saving is beyond the nisab. So I know that I'm going to give zakah. Can I give zakah every month? I'll deduct from my salary, from my income every month, and I give zakah? Yes, you can. And my actually bear will be easier for you and bear for even those that get a benefit. So I receive like every month, let's say 15,000 check. So I will deduct from that, give it somebody. And actually a few days ago, somebody told me, he said, I know people, they are in need and they are struggling even paying their rent. So he said, every month I deduct the amount that helped them for their rent. Which a good idea. And he said, I'm doing that for the entire year. That's good. However, at the end of the year, the end of the term of the zakah, you calculate. And you will see that how much you gave and how much you remain. This is, formula. You should look at it. So this is the first condition. Bulugh al-nisabi. Second condition, hulul al-hawli. Hulul al-hawl, when I said hulul al-hawl, that's generally speaking, because some type of zakah has nothing to do with the hawl. Like for somebody has a farm and he has fruits and has something to produce, then at the time of harvest, that's when he will give the zakah. He should not wait. If somebody sitting on a land, that's his land for a while, for many years, and then he decide to sell that land, then he should give the zakah at the day of the sale. Do not wait for that money for another year. Okay, so because why is that? Because it's already the year is past. He was there sitting it for a while. So it's different from somebody who just has a new things that came in his possession. But the other person, he already have that for a while. So do not wait for that money of that land comes from that land when you sell it for a year in order to give the zakah. حوله يوم قبضه. That zakatu يوم قبضه. That's a time when you hold the amount. That's a time when you give your zakah. Third condition, al-milk al-tam. The complete ownership. And that condition applies in many ways. Let's say somebody has money that come in a shipment. There's no guarantee that he will receive it or not. He owns it, but it's not complete ownership. Then he does not have to add it to zakatable money that he has to give it zakah for it until that comes in his possession. So he's not having that complete ownership for this. And also, let's say I lended somebody money for, let's say, 2 years. And by the way, when you lend somebody money, please the term, the period. And recommended to write it down to you forget, that could happen. He will forget, a person could die. Please document it as Allah recommended. يا الذين آمنوا إذا تدينتم بدين إلى أجل مسمى from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So this is very important. That about that. And also, as I said, write the period clearly, because there's a zakah required, there's many other things required. And also a reward that attached to it. Because if you lend somebody money for a certain period of time, the reward, as if you donated in every single day the exact amount. And if you extended him over the due, as if you donated the double amount every single day. You see, you don't want to miss the reward as well, that extending the person. So you know what, I'm good with that. I don't. Whenever he will able. No. Make a period of time, because when you extend it, you will double your reward. Okay. So there are many reasons for that. But let's say I lend somebody money. Now, who would pay the zakah for that money? I lend somebody money. Who will pay the zakah for that money? I will pay. It's my money. Because that money, as if sitting on saving account, as if in a bank, as if, sitting somewhere, it's my money. I have to pay zakah for it. But let's say that person is not able or is not willing to pay back anymore. He's not willing. He denied that amount. He said, I cannot give, but so you have no hope that money will come back to you. Then there's no zakah for that amount. Do not count that. It's your money, but you didn't have a complete ownership. You didn't have access to it. And at the same time, it's not going to come back to you. So do not add it. Do not add it. However, if it's happened that you receive that money later, then you pay 1 year zakah for that money. Only one time. If it happened that you receive it. If it's happened. Usually when you give money, they said if the person that's annoying you and you cannot get rid of that person, ask him if he need to borrow money from you. Because the moment that he will borrow money from you, he will disappear. You're not going to see his face. So, and actually there's one person, another asked him for money. He said, you know what? If you want money, kiss my hand. He said, I'm asking you for money and you put me down. He said, yes, you kiss my hand, because if the time when the due, I'm going to kiss your leg in order to just pay me back. Yes, and so it's true, yeah? Subhanallah. We live in a time, it's very, 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 in a bad time. It's hard even to help others, because how people, they are not good in that. So the third condition, al-milku tam. You have to have the complete ownership, for that. The fourth condition, al-khulu min ad-dayn. You deduct the debt. That is a due that you have to pay. Why you deduct it? Yes, it's there in your pool, but actually that portion is not yours. That you have to pay back. You have to give it to somebody back, because it's already that amount. The owner of that money, he's the one paying zakah for it. You get the point? So it's already, he's paying for it, he's counting it, and at the same time, you're going to pay it, so it's not yours. You're going to pay back with that. So the fourth condition, you deduct. So let's say at the end of the year, I have 50,000, but 20 of them is not mine. Then I pay zakah only for the 30,000. So this is, in general speaking, that's the four condition for paying the zakat of al-mal. Let's say somebody has a money sitting in an account, not in investment. Can I pay zakah for that? Do I have to pay zakah for that? Yes, you have to. the zakah on the right of the money, regardless. Even if the owner of that money is a young boy, or somebody has his mental capacity not in the right way, he still have to pay zakah, because the zakah is not depend on the one who owned the money, it's the right of the money itself. And the Prophet ﷺ said, اتجروا في مال اليتيم كي لا تأكله الزكاة. You should invest in the money of the orphan, otherwise it will be eaten by the zakah. So it might mean every year you have to pay zakah, so when they grow up they will find nothing. The point there that there's a right on that zakah. You invested or not, as long as that is there for investment, or there's an access for it to be invested. You invested or not, لقابل للما, that's money, it can be invested, then there's a zakah for it. Otherwise, that would be a different story. Can I pay my zakah for the gold and jewelry that I have? So, majority of scholars, when they talk about the jewelry that the women wear, even rarely wear, but that's the intention of it, for her to use, that the daily use or occasionally. Majority of scholars, they said no zakah for that, except Imam Abu Hanifa. Now, if I have jewelry and have gold, that's for investment. Somebody will say, I'm keeping it لليوم الأسود, for the bad day, So you are having the intention that for investment, that's not for wearing. Now when you change your intention, then it is different. Then you pay zakah for that. Okay? And there are many areas about the stock market, about somebody in the business. I could talk about it, or could receive your questions if you want. Okay, yeah. So let's say somebody has saving plans for retirement, for education, all of those ones. Is any zakah for that? Okay. Do you remember the fourth condition? Al-milku tam, the complete ownership. Any money that even under your name, but you don't have a complete ownership for that, there's no zakah for it. Now, when you have in any of those accounts a money, so how you calculate your zakah? You estimate, you or somebody with experience, if you want to withdraw that amount, what you are going to receive in hand. So you pay zakah for that amount that can be transferred after all deductions, because that will trigger the tax, and might even 50% of it will gone. So only you pay for what might come in your hand. There are some opinions that said no zakah at all, only later, when you receive it. But actually it's yours. Yes, you have access to it or not. Would that talk with first question? In some plans there's no access. If there's no access, there's no zakah. In some plans, they might tie you with 5 years, 10 years, with the order, sometimes with an age, when you receive that age. So you have no access. This is how you sign on it. Especially in the state, they have some special plans. If you have no access, there's no zakah. It's like the example of my money that somebody borrowed, and he's not going to give me back, yes? If you don't, there's no zakah because you have no access. So, but if you have access, but there's a penalty and there's a tax, it's fine. Deduct all of those and then pay zakah for only what it can be comes to your ownership. I hope that will be clear. Yes? That's fine. If no access, There's no zakah, only you pay once when you have an access on it. Yes, yes. But if they allow you, in some plans they discourage you to withdraw it, but they allow you. They said, yeah, you want to draw it? Yeah, here you go, you can withdraw, but you have to pay this and this and that. Then you estimate it, how much you might, after all of those penalties and taxes, how much I will receive, then you pay all the zakah for what you receive. If you have no access, there's no zakah. Once you have the access to it, you pay only 1 year zakah. Okay, any question, please? Oh, that's different. You talk about stocks. Yes? Stocks is different. So, for the stocks, it's different. Like, this is a new model because at the time the Prophet, there's no much something similar like this. But let's say I have shares in a company. Okay. The company itself, is in zakah for the company itself. There's no zakah for the fixed asset. Let's say the building itself, the machines, the shelves, and all of other things, the furniture, there's no zakah. Even if that grows in its value, even has a value, but that doesn't grow, there's no zakah at all for that. They pay zakah for the cash and for the inventories, like the product that what they are selling, and for what they are going to collect, which already been done, the sale, but maybe they have not received the money yet. It's their money. It's like it's sitting somewhere. Yes. So they calculate all of that because that's theirs. It's already being transferred to them, maybe physically or on paper. Okay. So that's the asset that they calculate it and they pay zakah for it. If somebody having a store, so at the end of the year, when he want to pay zakah, he will look at his cash, how much he has in the bank, how much he has with him at home, all of the cash. He will look at it, and he will estimate it. If he want to be out of business, how much that product, how he will sell at once. بيع الجملة. He say, what, I have the papers and receipts. I bought it at that time with that amount. It doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. We're not asking how much you get it. You might get it free. You might get it at a high price. No, how much it's cost now. So then you look at how much cost now, and then you pay, zakah for that, because it's a money. It's a money. It's something has a value, and that's for itself. But let's say I have a share on that company. Yes, and the share cost this and that. I didn't have intention to sell the share. If I'm doing the stock market and buying and selling, this is a business, this is a trade. Then I have to pay zakah for that. How much cost all of those shares, and they pay zakah. But if I have a long-term investment, I'm not there to buy and sell, then only I pay zakah for the value or the profit that comes out of it. The shares, when I want to sell it, then I pay zakah for that. Okay? But what I get and receive from those as investment, as money, then there's zakah for it. And that's what he said, like, 80%, 20%, or 70-30. That's what they meant. Yes, brother. Yeah, so there are a lot of people that their business buy and sell. And how you know that's buy and sell? So their shares in the market. If your shares in the market was sold or not, then this is that a trade now count. So then you pay zakah for the cost of all of the shares in the market. Let me give you one example, and that might clarify many things. Let's say I do have a farm or a land or a house. It's property. And that's, I own it. And that's maybe for a future investment. Maybe I want to sell it later, but now I have no intention. It's, I own it. There's no zakah for that property. That's a fixed asset. There's no zakah for that land, for that house, for any of those. Okay. But let's say I said, you know what? Yes, I want to keep it looking at the market. When it's the right time, I will sell it. So I have not presented yet to the market. But my intention that I'm looking for that. Then I will pay zakah on the day of the sale. Even I was waiting with that land for 5-6 years. I only pay one time zakah when I'm selling that one. That's the second option. Third option, that I bought a land and I present it to the market. So as long as it's in the market, even nobody came to negotiate or to buy, I still have to pay zakah every year. Sometimes you see some lands, they said, oh, that's for sale, but that sign stays for 5-6 years, yes? Maybe big land or whatever. I have to pay zakah every single year. If I change my mind and remove it out of the market, then there's no zakah. But if I'm presenting it in the market, then there's a zakah every year. So now, when you look at the shares from that aspect, it's a money. If I bought long term, invested in a company, there's no zakah for that. I'm not intended to sell the shares. But if I'm buying, selling, and any time any person give me offer, I will sell it. Then I have to pay zakah for the entire value of those shares. Yes, brother. That's the purpose of giving the mic, because people at home, they cannot hear the questions. Sorry for that. Yes.
Hello? Yeah. So if there is money that I gave to someone for a specific purpose, who's responsible for the zakah, me or him?
It's your money, yes?
Yes.
Then you pay zakah.
What if?
You give it to him as a loan, yes?
No, just.
Oh, that's fine. You give it to him. That's now transfer from your ownership to his ownership. Then that money, if it can be added to his money, But now it might be no zakah because he might utilize it, spend it. There's no zakah for that. So the moment that's out of yours, do not worry about it. Now for him, he will look at it. He might actually spend it, as I said. There's no zakah at all for that. It's only the zakah for the saving. If let's say he had 20,000 and you give him another 5,000. Now he will have 25,000. If he completed the years having those amount, then he has to pay the zakah for the entire amount. Brothers and sisters, do not wait for every penny the year. That will be almost hard to track it. Almost impossible to track it. It's hard, but it's almost impossible. So, as long as you own the nisab, the minimum, and you hold it for a year, then at the end of the year you pay zakah for whatever you have in the account. 2.5%. Yes. Okay? Whatever you have. Do not calculate it, when it's arrived, when it's that, that will be not that possible to do this. And as long as you're paying every year, that will be adjusted by itself. Because the other amount will stay with you in your year. So you don't have to worry about this.
I'm sorry, I just have a follow-up. What if you got money for a specific reason that's going to take longer than you, i.e. like university or study, something along those lines?
You hold the money.
Someone gave you money for a purpose that's going to be long-term. You're going to have to
It's
pay
a
it
loan.
after a year.
It's a loan. Yeah, we
No,
said that.
no,
Deduct the loan.
No, it's just given to you. Like parents give you some of money for university, you're going to have to pay in like 2 years. How are you going to feed that money?
So we have to give it a term. We have to give it a definition.
Yeah.
So when you say somebody give me what? As a hadiyah, then it's your money now. If it's as a loan, so we have to put it under a category. See? Under a category, either we say, okay, is this a loan or this is a gift? Yes? If a loan, then deducted that amount from the zakatable money.
So just a follow-up question on what he said. So let's say I borrowed $50,000 from my brother for, let's say, tuition, for example. Now I cannot pay that back, of course, at once. I have to pay him back, let's say, over 10 years. So now I can only pay 5,000 per year. Like that's all I can pay. So how do you calculate zakat on long-term debt? Like this very specific example, let's say I borrowed money from my brother.
Yes. I've even give you a more practical example. There is somebody, it's a long-term halal mortgage, where it might be 20 years, 25 years, it might be even 30 years as now the new regulation. Okay, so that amount, not all of it will be deducted. No, what gonna be due at the time of the zakah, that year, that only be deducted, because that's not yours, because that has to be paid. But the long-term loan, that should not be deducted, for when you calculate your zakah. What is halal mortgage? There are different models. Could be murabaha, could be musharaka. So there are different models for that. For the halal mortgage, they might you invest with 20%, they invest with 80%, and every time you will buy from their shares until you own all those shares. That's called musharaka. So let's say the whole property is 100 shares, you have 20 shares, and they have 80, and every year you buy from their shares until you own it completely. Or you tell them, okay, I want this property, and they go negotiate and they buy the property, and then they sell it to you. So they buy it in a price, but they bought it, and you give them the promise that you will buy from them. So but there's no final agreement. Just there's a promise that you'll buy from them. So they go and they buy the property from the previous owner. Now they own the property. Now they sell the property to you with different price. That's called murabaha. Which is fine. That's with certain condition. So these some examples of the halal mortgage. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you explain a little bit more about zakat on inventory or
Zakah?
products? Inventory. Like, so you do it on the cost price or the selling price, or?
No, we mentioned it clear. It's not as the price that you bought, definitely, and at the price of the sale where there's a wholesale. So you count it as a wholesale, not as an individual. Because why I'm saying wholesale? Because you bought as a wholesale. So you bought it in a wholesale, and that's how you are. If you wanna end your business and close your business, and maybe you said, I'm be out of business, then you're not gonna sell as individual product. So you estimate it as a wholesale at the day of the zakah, not at the day you bought it. I hope that will be clear. Yes. Oh, okay, same one. Okay. Yes. That's correct. So every year you will see what's in the store, what's in the storage from the things that were meant for sale. It's not that things meant to stay. Any things that you bought it for your shop that's not for sale, it's not zakatable. Any that count as a fixed asset, okay? Any machine, any computers, any shelves, any car that you have it for transportation, like to for the customers, delivery, whatever, like there, that's not like for sale, that's not zakatable. It's only the product that could bring an income for you. Yes.
The money that you have in your day-to-day like salary
Say it
account.
again, please.
The money that you have in your day-to-day salary account, like the one you are receiving salary in it, and you are using it on a daily basis. If
So,
it is exceeding the limit, then
so again, in order to have to pay zakah, that's bulugh al-nisab, that's one condition. But the other condition, hulul al-hawli. I mentioned that if somebody knows that at the end of the year, from his experience, from his calculation, that he will pay zakah. So he said, you know what, I want to give the zakah every month. I could do that. You don't have to. But you could do that. That's when you just receive the amount, you pay the zakah, make it easier for you. Because might be at the end of the year, you don't have that liquid money to give. So, but doing it like every month will be much easier for you than with one big chunk of money that you give it at one day. So you can do that, you can do that. But if somebody, he's earning, even high earning, but it's barely that will cover his expenses, then there's no zakah for that person. We know our bills, you know how much you're going to pay every month. So if your income 10,000, but your bills 12,000, actually you should receive zakah, not give zakah. That's how it be. Yeah. Just go ahead.
Question about the long-term debt. So let's say you owe long-term debt of 100,000, and in the year you are going to have to pay 10,000.
Yeah, so only you deduct the 10,000.
10,000.
Okay, that's only what you can deduct. The 10,000, do not deduct the whole amount. Yes.
Question about property. So
Yes.
let's say I have a building for a company, and then I need to sell this building, but I'm going to buy another building. Do I pay the zakat on when I sell the building before I buy the other building?
So what is your type of business? Buying and selling buildings? That's what your type of business? Or because it's if you are in a business, you buying and selling is different if you own a property and sit on it for a while. Okay? So it's different, because you're buying and selling regardless, buildings, cans, clothes, whatever, then at the end of the year you calculate that's your asset and your money. Because in and out, this is your product. The building is a product. But if I own a property, then you go back to the analogy we'll talk about it. If I own it and I decided to sell it, and I live in that property and decide to sell it, there's no zakah for that. That the amount that I have it, if it stay with me as a money until the time of my zakatable year, then I pay zakah for it. So let's say I have 30,000 in a bank account, and my years of zakah on Ramadan, and I sold that property which I used, and I sold that property 2 months before Ramadan. If I still have that money without putting it in other property, then I have to pay zakah for the entire money in the account and the money that came out of the property. You get the point? But if I sign another contract, I put it another way, then there's no zakah for it.
Does that same thing apply to vehicles, like you have it for a couple
Whatever,
of years?
whatever, yes, whatever things I have. So my own vehicle, even I have 10 of them. Even I have one cost $1 million, or Ferrari, whatever, like you have the cars. There's no zakah for that. Unless you are buying and selling cars, that's a different story. Or I sold the car and then I cash it, I liquid it, I have a money. And the money sitting there, then it doesn't matter from where it comes, that money. From a car, from a house, I have to pay zakah for it when it is zakah it's due.
But
When it's zakah it's due.
But you should have the ownership of the vehicle over a year.
No. No. It has nothing to do with this. See, it's my own car or my own house. I live it and use it for many years, and I want to sell that house. I sold that house with 500,000, and I put that money in another property. Is any zakah for that? No zakah for that. I bought it in another property. Okay? There's no zakah for that. I sold that car, I bought it another car or whatever. There's no zakah for it. I don't have the money there. Okay? But I sold it. I rented apartment, and I have that money. I was looking for another house. I couldn't find it, and the money is still with me until the time of the due of zakah comes. Then I added that month for the zakah, and I pay zakah for that. You get it? Yes. Whatever. Cars, whatever. But if I use that money in the highway, that's fine. It's similarly, if somebody, let's say, as I said, he has $1 million, and he has it for 11 months, and then he bought a property, and he has that, he might have it from business, he might sold other property. I bought it in something halal. There's no zakah. But if I still have the money until the year of zakah came, then I pay zakah for that. Okay? Yes.
How many should you pay?
Huh?
How many should you pay?
Why?
How many should you pay?
How much? Okay. For every 1,000, $25. Okay? Very simple. So if I have money that's sitting with me, yes.
Is it possible to pay by installment to the zakat? By installment?
Yes, sometimes you don't have the cash. Yes, yani, you make a plan to pay. It's better that you document all of that. You inform your wife, for example, you inform your friend, your accountant about what zakah should be. So the first step, you calculate it,
Do
and
you have to put?
second, you designate it. You calculate it, and then you designate that amount. Find ways to pay it. If you can sell something, borrow something. If it's not possible, then make a plan for the payment, for the zakah. Because it's very important that you exclude it, from your money. As possible, that you pay it quickly. Yes. Does that answer the questions? Oh, you have the money to pay? No, you have to pay. Do not delay for that. Yes. Do not delay for that. If you have a money to pay and it's at you, it should be on spot. But as I said, in advance, you can do some in advance for the years that I'm doing that. For now, for the next year, let's say I paid already my zakah, and now for next year, I want to pay store every month. I could do that. But not for the year is already passed. If I have the money, then I have to pay.
If you have $2, do you have to give your $2?
Huh?
If you have $2, do you have to give your $2?
Huh?
If you have $2, do you have to give your $2?
Huh? Yes, and that you have to. No, you don't have to, but if you give it, you'll be and that extra from you. If that you need it for your affairs, then you should spend on yourself and those surrounding you from your family. That's more important. You know, that's more important that to give it away. That's actually always care about yourself. The Islam doesn't ask you to take your properties from you or your money from you. No, do not put yourself at risk or your family at jeopardy. Say, you know what, I want to give in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Somebody might say, you know what, I want to follow the example of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. He gave all his money. Not all of us like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Do not put your iman at test. You give all your money, and then after that, oh, something happened to you. Oh, so because of I gave that, because that happened to me with this. No, it's not everybody. One time, there's a man came with all of his money, like said Abu Bakr as-Siddiq did. The Prophet he didn't accept it from him. Yes. So it doesn't mean, oh, I want to give all my properties in the sake of Allah. Do not put yourself at test. So not everybody like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Yes.
A question on eligibility, like sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just a question on who can receive the zakat. So the other day we had brother Stephen Brown, his NCCM organization. Now when I go ahead and donate over there, it says they are zakat eligible, but they are basically lobbying the government. So I just wanted to know, how are they zakat eligible?
For them,
Yeah.
because for example, some organizations, they do what's called jihadul kalima. Because wafi sabilillah, that means jihad. One of the categories is wafi sabilillah, in the sake of Allah. In literally it means jihad. And jihad, one of the forms of jihad is jihadul kalima. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا تُطِعِ الْكَافِرِينَ وَالْمُنَافِقِينَ وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. So Allah named that as a jihad, and jihad kabir. So defending the rights of Muslims, protecting them, it's all that, type of jihad. From that point, yes, there's some organization might be eligible under وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. But that's really a good question, because when you give zakah, you have to make sure the one he received it is eligible. That's your duty. That is your duty. And you have to be careful. As when you want to get married, you will select who is your wife, yes? They said even when you give your sadaqah, you have to select where you put it. تخيروا لصدقاتكم كما تتخيروا لنطفكم. Let's say somebody did his possible way to clarify, to make sure this person or that organization is eligible, but it end up they are not eligible. You don't have to worry. As long as the moment you're giving zakah, you thought that they're eligible, you don't have to pay back. You don't have to beg again. Even if you discover they are not. Let's say somebody asked, and he was begging for money, and he was a poor person, as he pretended. But then it's apparently he was not. As Prophet mentioned, actually, kutibat sadaqah. It was written as sadaqah for you. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay? But before giving it, try your best. And try to hit many birds with one stone. So if you give a sadaqah and zakah, and that count as haqqul Islam, haqqu al-jiwar, haqqul qarabati, there are many rights you could fulfill. He might be your neighbor, he might be your relative, and you get my point. He's a needy. So 3 or 4 birds that you hit with one stone. So you fulfill multiple rights with one thing that you are given. So it's good to be smart how you utilize your zakah. Somebody would say, is it better to give the zakah for multiple categories, more than one side, or is better to one side? If your zakah is gonna be suffice for one person fulfilling all his needs, as per to suffice that one, but then you give each one a little, that's not gonna help them much. Especially if you are alone or you are among a few, those they know that person in need. Because some people they are in need, but not a lot are aware of them. But you're aware of that person is in need and fulfilling the needs of that person, that bird, then you give this one a little and other one is a little. Yes, because that's not only zakah, that's saddu khullah. That you fulfill the need of the brother by making him suffice from that aspect. That's another layer of the zakah. It's not only just giving zakah, but actually you're ending his suffer in that way. Okay, I have some questions here. هل يوجد زكاة على المال المدخر لشراء شقة سكنية بحيث اكتمال المبلغ لشراء الشقة? Yes. Now is the question here. I have money that I'm saving for a purpose like buying an apartment, and still not enough to buy the apartment. Do you have to pay zakah for that? Another person would say, I'm saving for my dowry. I want to get married and I'm saving for that. If we give zakah for this. As long as you have not yet made a contract, we don't go by the intention in this. If the money was sitting there, even for the purpose, good purpose, like buying an apartment for yourself, going getting married, or saving it for Hajj, you still have to pay zakah for this. If I made the signing and the contract, I'm gonna pay maybe after a year, that's a different story. Then there's no zakah for that amount. But if I have not made any commitment, and just having plan and intention only, then I have to pay zakah for that amount. And think with me, any moment you could change your intention, correct? So what are you going to do with that money that you have not paid zakah for it for many years? Who will say to you, you cannot change your intention? You can, yes. I'm saving it for that purpose, but I changed my mind. So we cannot say we cannot pay zakah. Somebody will say, I'm saving that money for my marriage. But I'll tell them, we're already married. No, he said, I'm saving for the second wife. No, it's not the case. We don't go by the intention. If you already made the commitment or a contract or whatever, then that's out of yours. Let's say somebody, he already bought a furniture, and he bought the furniture with a certain amount of money he has to pay in 6 months or a year. Then that amount, there's no zakah for it, because he has to pay back. Yes, that money he has to pay back, because he had already had the furniture. He has a signature, he signed it, he received the furniture, whatever. Then that amount, there's no zakah for it. But I'm intending to buy furniture. We all intend. All of us, when you have the money, have intention, part of that money to buy this, part of money to buy this. Then if we go by intention, will be no zakah. So we don't go by intention. We go by actual signing or agreement or commitment.
Assalamu alaikum.
Does
Does this apply to wasiyah as well, if you have made the commitment or written it down?
How?
For example, you have some savings, but you write it down as a wasiyah, and then year passes, and now do you pay on it, or do you?
What do you mean for wasiyah? It's not clear. I didn't get your question. I have to understand your question in order to answer. الحكم عن الشرع عن الشيء فرع عن تصوره. In order to give you a verdict, I have to understand the point behind, the reason behind. I thought they use in the basement, not the masjid. Yeah, well, inshallah khair. Yeah, nobody told me that's in the masjid. They should tell me before they make the plan. No, never been there before. I'm like the imam of the masjid. This is like you have to give me the permission for me first. You make a plan for that. Yeah, but anyway, but it should be. Do not be upset on that because it should be the way around. It should be I will be taking permission if any plan happen here. Yes. Okay, we'll conclude soon. So give me what you thought about it.
Yeah, for example, if you have, 50,000 in your bank account, but you wrote it as a wasiya for your family if you pass away.
No, it's not like that. The zakah has to be paid. If after you that, nobody will come after you. If you wrote like a 50,000 for them, but then when they look at your bank account, you have 20,000. Nobody will come after you. They ask the rest. This is the wasiyah and all of that. It's not going to be obligatory unless you give it by giving it. That's what became obligatory. Otherwise, it's not. So you don't have to worry about this. A paid-off vehicle, personal use. Do you pay zakah? No. There's no zakah for a vehicle, even if it's a number of them. Yes. We'll conclude sooner, so maybe there's time for one or two questions. Yes.
When I die, they pay my funeral. You pay this zakat on this.
So you made it. If you already made the trust,
you don't pay.
And you transferred the amount, then yeah. If you already made the trust, and you said this amount allocated for
my funeral,
for my funeral, or a funeral of so and so, then it's out of your control, out of your money. Yes. Then that's in this case there's no zakah for that. Okay. May Allah bless you all, and may Allah grant the best for all of us in this life and after. اللهم علمنا ما جهلنا وذكرنا ما نسينا وفقهنا في ديننا واجعلنا من عبادك الصالحين. اللهم نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة. آمين.